Hello, this is DM Nell, and I have the day off work, so I'm going to do a video. Because why not? I've got nothing better to do today other than laundry. So here we go. I'm going to keep this one fairly short, and I am going to cover the offerings on DriveThru RPG for Schwalb Entertainment. So, once again, just wanting to make it very clear, I have no connections to Schwalb Entertainment other than I've given them a lot of my money. The Schwalb Entertainment site on our DriveThru RPG is somewhat kind of not really similar to the DM's Guild for Dungeons and Dragons, in that it is a place that not only has official Schwalb Entertainment stuff, but it is also a repository of offerings that are made by the good people of the Shadow of the Demon Lord community. So there are many things that are offered out here, both official and unofficial, that are available for you to check out. And the thing that I love about this is that the offerings here are all very affordable, and even the official offerings from Schwalb Entertainment very affordable. So just looking at what we have available here, and just kind of give you, if you haven't been to DriveThru RPG, first of all, you have to find the Schwalb site, which means you have to do a search for Schwalb Entertainment. And let's go back to the homepage. And so you do that by looking for the publishers. And if you don't see the publisher's name in the list that they provide, then you just type it in and give it a click. And there you go. So it gives you the hottest titles, which are the bestsellers. And then it gives you the hottest community titles, which would include things that would be made by people that are not officially part of Schwalb Entertainment. Whereas the top row is official offerings from Schwalb Entertainment. Most of this is Shadow of the Demon Lord stuff, although there is also stuff for the game that he created called Godless, which was part of the initial Kickstarter for Shadow of the Demon Lord. Godless is kind of a Mad Max type game. So that is I think that along the rule book, along with I think I want to say there were 3 adventures for Godless that were originally provided. They should all be in here somewhere, but I'm not interested in Godless because I'm not the biggest Mad Max fan. It's okay. Just put it that way. But I don't want to run a Mad Max game. So there you go. So anyway, you've got all of the official offerings here and some unofficial offerings. And then you go to the bottom of the page and it subdivides these into categories. And you've got the Disciples of the Demon Lord, which is the page that you go to if you want to create content for the Shadow of the Demon Lord game. And this is where you're going to find the creator resources and all of the things that have been offered by the community thus far, most of which are games, although there are a few other non-game related items that have been put out here. Now, I do have to confess, I have not purchased a lot of these as of yet because I am currently broke, actually. The daughter unit graduated college, and so the student loan payments are now begging for their money. So things are tight, and I haven't had the disposable income to invest in some of these. But I have perused them, and some of them look pretty interesting. So, but I haven't read them all. and some may be better than others. I really can't say, but there are some different offerings out here. There's a alternative character sheet or character portfolio. Um, and there are, like I said, adventures, but then there are also some other non-adventure supplements. I did purchase one early on, and that was a collection of monsters, the Liber Monstorum for Shadow the Demon Lord, and that was who was that? That was an offering from Mark Craddock. I hope I said that right. And that one's pretty good. That's got several monsters in there that you can add to your bestiary or bestiary, however you say that. Here's another offering, 100 Rumors to Here on Earth. And, if you check out the prices over here, you get everything from 99 cents on up to, higher price points. And, there's some things that are free. Cool. The character portfolio is free. Anyway, just wanted to point out the Disciples of the Demon Lord, because that's where you're going to find some of the more you're going to find the creator stuff there that's not part of Schwalb Entertainment. So if I can get my brain to work this morning, let's get back to the main page of Schwalb Entertainment and just kind of go through each of these. So you've got several categories here, and these are the categories that Schwalb Entertainment has basically established for the various supplements that have been published for the game. Of course, you got the core rulebook that everybody should have, and then you have the various supplements, and the supplements are broken down as follows. You've got Legacy of Shadow, and this is where you expand on the lore of the world. So you've got offerings such as the Men of Gog, which I covered in a separate video, a new supplement called Curse of the Spiderwood, Signs of the Betrayer, Black Sun Dawn, and In the Emperor's Secret Service. I have all of these, but I have not read them all. I've kind of skimmed them. Men of Gog is the one I've read most thoroughly, and I have yet to read Curse of Spiderwood, since that's one of the newer offerings. Black Sun Dawn is pretty cool. It goes into great detail of a cult, the Black Sun Dawn cult, and In the Emperor's Secret Service was different. Not really sure how to fit that into a campaign. And Signs of the Betrayer is pretty. It's pretty detailed as well, though that would probably be best suited for its own campaign rather than trying to fit it into an existing campaign. So those are the things that have been dropped into the Legacy of Shadow, although I would say that you could probably drop other titles in here as well. But some of the titles kind of cross the line between being a supplement that expands on the lore of the world, but also offers additional rules. And those are kept somewhere else. So the Path of Shadow, offers the different expansions on the novice, the expert, and the master paths. And so this is where you're going to find those expansions. And I believe they also have the expansions for the ancestries. Although, no, those aren't here. Those are actually in a separate folder. So let's back it up. And then we have the Poison Pages. And this is where you're going to find the things that really kind of don't really fit in other categories, or they could fit in multiple categories. So you have things like Between Life and Death. And I'm not really sure why this isn't ringing a bell here. So let me take a look at what we've got. Death comes for everyone eventually. Nothing else in life is certain, but that it ends. In the lands of rule, however, circumstances can sometimes extend existence beyond death, allowing something of the person to remain. Liberated from the flesh, the spirit lingers anchored to the world by strong emotion, a sense of duty, or blah, blah, blah. Presents new options for player characters who have met an untimely death in an adventure. Okay, so I'm not sure I've read this. I'm sure I've bought it, but I'm not sure that I've read it because it's definitely not ringing bells. And here's the thing: there are hundreds of supplements and adventures and so forth available for this game, and I haven't read them all because I there's not enough time, and so a lot of stuff I own, but I really haven't delved into them simply because I haven't had time or haven't really felt that it would fit into the campaigns that I've been running so far. So that's my confession, but that's not to say that they wouldn't fit into your campaign. So, definitely check some of these things out. Oddities, Artifacts, and Esoterra. That just gives you stuff that um, you can hand out as loot. And I'm not going to go through all these, but I just kind of want to point out some of the things that are in here. Children of the Earth, that is a supplement for playing gnomes. And you would think this would be in the Victims of the Demon Lord folder, or at least I would think. But it also has some world lore in there, but so do the other ancestry supplements. So I'm actually not really sure why it's here. Tooth and Claw enables you to play a character that is a skin changer, which would be a skin changer would be like a somebody who's cursed to kind of like a lycanthropy. So you play a werewolf, werebear, or whatever. Um, Insupposable instruments. That's more stuff that can be given out. Riders of the Wind. That is for a supplement for playing centaurs. Battle Scars, one of my favorites. This is a supplement that is extremely brutal because it allows you to put an element into your game that expands the effects of combat and can make them quite deadly. I strongly recommend that if you're going to start your Schwalb Entertainment collection, Battle Scars should definitely be part of that. Do We Not Die? I want to say that is a poison, a supplement that deals with poisons, but let me double check here. Come on, Internet. You can do it. Yeah, this is about using poisons. So it gives you rules on how to incorporate poisons into your game. And then we've got the Price of Evil that deals with corruption. Dark Passages, that is this is actually pretty cool in that it gives you a way to generate different books for your campaign. So I don't know if you've ever had a situation where your employees, where your characters or your players' characters go into a room that's like a library, and then they start perusing the books, and they're wanting to know what kind of books are in here, and then you're stuck because you're like, all kinds of books. I don't know. So this helps you to generate some interesting books that you can litter your libraries and dungeons with. Fever Dreams, I believe this has to do with disease, how to incorporate disease into your game. Flesh of the Fallen deals with playing ghoul characters. Power in a Name. This is one of my favorite supplements, although I'm not really sure how to fit it into a campaign. This has to do with true names as a source of magic. And this is for a long time, I've loved the idea of true name magic. I guess it kind of goes back to, oh shoot, what was that book I read? By Ursula, something or other. Anyway, it is a there's a book series that it's a fantasy book series that has a magic system that is based on true name magic. And they also touch on true name magic in another game that I supported back in the early 2000s, which might actually be late 1990s, but there was a game produced by Monty Cook and his company at the time, and it was called Arcana Unearthed, and then it morphed to Arcana Evolved, and it touched on true name magic as well. And I want to say that there was actually some D&D 3.5 supplements that went into True Name Magic. In fact, I believe it was a Tome of Magic that went into True Name Magic. So, yeah, there's been a lot of stuff that has kind of toyed with True Name Magic, and Schwalb puts his stamp on it in this game as well. So that's what this supplement is all about. But as of yet, I've yet to find a way to get that into my games. Unhinge the Mind goes and expands on insanity, the insanity rules for the game. So that's a must. And then Vine and Willow is really a supplement that has a couple of NPCs that are clockworks. So again, I'm not really sure why that's in this folder, but this folder is kind of like a potpourri of stuff. And so let me make sure I haven't missed anything. Yep, that's pretty much it. So let's back out of here and check out what's in some of these other folders. So let's see. It's Legacy of Shadows, Paths of Shadows, Poison Pages, and Accessories. All right. Accessories has, again, just kind of miscellaneous stuff for the game. Looks like spell cards are thrown in here. This is actually a Chronicles of the Demon Lord is actually a collection of short stories that are set in the Shadow of the Demon Lord world. Here's another character sheet. Spell cards for Godless, and just all kinds of spell card goodness that you can purchase and print out. Also, there are affliction cards. I purchased these. I actually bought the not only the PDF, but I actually bought the physical cards, and they're pretty cool. Very handy if you actually run a face-to-face game, which unfortunately I do not. I run my games online, so they're not as useful for online games, but they are still a good supplement to have. And again, all of these are pretty cheap, as you can see. At least for the PDF. Now they get a little bit more costly when you start actually ordering the print cards, but that's not something you have to do. So anyway, that's Accessories, Adventures. This is the repository for all of the adventures that have been produced for the game officially up to this point. And we got a veritable buttload of adventures in here to choose from, including the campaign adventure paths, such as Tales of the Demon Lord and the one I'm getting ready to run, which is Queen of Gold. And so all sorts of adventure goodness in here. And I'm pretty sure I own all those. And let's back out of that and go to Freeport. Now, Freeport was a Kickstarter that he did a couple years back so that he could bring the Freeport campaign setting into the Shadow of the Demon Lord world. And Freeport is actually being retrofitted into the Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign world as the Pirate Islands. So those of you familiar with Freeport, it really stays very true to the source material. In fact, Freeport is still called Freeport, but it's also, and the Dragon's Teeth are still called the Dragon's Teeth, or the Serpent's Teeth, I should say, not the Dragon's Teeth. The collection of isles that make up the Freeport campaign setting is called the Serpent's Teeth, and that is They still call it that, but it's also known as the Pirate Islands in the official campaign world for Shadow of the Demon Lord. So, and then there are 3 adventures that go along with Freeport, and these are the original adventures that were part of the original campaign setting that have been updated and have been, of course, transferred over. I'm trying to think of the word. Converted over to the Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign game mechanics. Okay, backing out of here. We have Godless, which I mentioned earlier. So far, you've got the rule book, and you've got the three adventures that were produced for the game. If you're into Mad Max, check it out. It's like Mad Max with goblins and alternate ancestries. But it uses the Shadow of the Demon Lord game engine. So there's that. And then we have the last one over here, which is covered up by My Ugly Mug. And that would be Lands in Shadow. And this is a supplement that actually deals into the lore of the campaign world. And this is all kinds of interesting, just reading through these supplements. And I got to tell you, Shadow of the Demon Lord kind of bills itself as a run quick campaigns, and you can run an entire campaign in 11 sessions, and that may be true, but after reading through all of these supplements, you kind of don't want to do that. You kind of want to delve into all the interesting stuff that's provided in all of these supplements. And it's hard to do that if you're just running an 11 session game campaign, unless you're doing like what I'm trying to do, which is you have like a meta campaign that is made up of smaller campaigns that maybe are 11 sessions or maybe a little bit longer, but maybe not not the individual campaigns wouldn't be years long. Rather, they would encompass maybe a few months, but they are linked and they are all in this common world. So, and that's what I'm trying to do, so that I can incorporate all this cool stuff and the cool lore into my campaigns. Because just running an 11 session game, you have to, you can't. There's just no time to delve into the depth that these supplements provide this game setting. So I'm kind of trying to find a happy medium, run fairly short campaigns, but at the same time, the campaigns are long enough where I can introduce a lot of the material from these supplements and get the players familiar with the world and familiar with the lore of the world. All right, so that is the last category. No, it's not. I lied. That's Lands in Shadow. So we have 2 more categories here, not including the core rulebook, of course. Monstrous Pages is where you have all the supplements that deal with that and expand the bestiary that was provided in the Shadow of the Demon Lord. So this is where you're going to find supplements that deal with genies, for example. That's Genius Loci. Curse of Light deals with trolls. We Are Legion deals with a creature in the game called why am I thinking Borrows? It's not Borrows. It's all right, I'll come back to that because shit. Now I gotta look it up. Okay, so I am coming over here and I am looking at my bestiary because I know that these creatures are known as broodlings. Thank you. All right, so that's what We Are Legion deals with, is broodlings. And we have False Lives that deals with constructs and clockworks. From Beyond This World deals with one of my favorite creatures in the game, which is the Reen. And I had a campaign that dealt with the Reen, kind of. That was my Etherscape campaign. And the Reen were prominently featured, especially towards the end of the campaign. But I still intend to do them justice in a normal campaign, because my Etherscape campaign was kind of a weird departure from a normal campaign. It was actually all a weird fever dream of one of the characters at the end of the campaign arc. But not spoiler alert. Anyway, We Folk has to do with the fairy folk. Phallus Reptiles has to deal with lizard folk. Wretched and Unclean have to deal with troglodytes. Of Monstrous Mean deals with just the monster, the overarching monster keyword, for lack of a better word. The category of monster. So this allows you to create generic monsters. And expands on the rules that are already provided in the core rulebook. Trapped in Flesh and Bone is an expansion for Forge Born and Magic Made is a supplement dealing with animating inanimate objects. So it's kind of like constructs, but not really. So if you are a fan of Fantasia, where the Mickey Mouse Wizard animates his master's workshop with animated brooms and that sort of shit, that's what Forge Born and Magic Made can help you to accomplish in your game. And so we have also Malicious Mischief. That also deals with fairy folk. Ghastly Gormons. That deals with ogres, I believe. Yep, ogres. That expands on the ogre creature. All right, what else? Slaves in Death. That deals with undead. I don't believe. I think. See, one of them has to deal with intelligent undead, and the other one has to deal with undead that are not intelligent. I think this one is non-intelligent undead. Fire and Venom is an expansion for dragons. Lord of the Barrows is an expansion for a type of undead known as the Barrow Wights, and so they have their own lore and their own little corner of the game world. This would be an interesting campaign. I really haven't delved into creating a campaign based on this, but after reading through it, it would be I think it would make an interesting campaign. Unholy Champions of the Demon Lord deals with several specific demons. Now, demons are weird in Shadow of the Demon Lord because most of the time demons are they are just mindless engines of destruction that appear as randomly created constructs. So yeah, a demon actually resides in the void. Demons are not inherent to the material world that your campaign world is in. They're in the void, and they have no forms in the void. They're just spirit creatures, basically, in the void. But when they enter the real world, they create for themselves a body that is made up of whatever available material is in the area. So if somebody summons a demon and they happen to be in a carpenter's workshop, the demon would, craft a body for itself made out of lumber, nails, hammers, saws, just all the stuff that you would find in a carpenter's workshop. So that's how demons are normally handled in the game. But this supplement deals with very specific demons that have somehow managed to, retain a specific form and have remained in the material world. And so they're no longer just purely engines of destruction that are typically mindless. They are actually they actually have goals, and they actually have a purpose in the real world, which usually deals with death and destruction. But at least they consciously think about how they're going to go about the death and destruction. All right, so Forces of Nature deals with giants. Odd Monsters deals with creatures. The boggart creatures gives you subtypes of boggarts. Then you have horrific parasites, and these deal with the harvester creatures in the Shadow of the Demon Lord game, which are an interesting species, if you want to call them that, of monster. And I kind of like this, and I think I may someday do a campaign, or at least part of a campaign that features harvesters in greater detail than what I've done so far. And then Noisome Beast deals with some just miscellaneous monsters like, if I can remember correctly, it has, no, I can't remember, but here we go. Amphisbena, which is the two-headed snake. Basilisk, Cato Bleepus, Cockatrice, and Manticore, and yeah, that's it. So, those are just kind of miscellaneous monsters that goes into a little bit more depth on. So that is your monsters pages folder. And then we've got the core rules where you've got the main stuff for Shadow of the Demon Lord. Now, this is probably if you're just starting your Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign library, this is where you would start. And you've got the core rulebook here, which right now is on sale for $9.49, which is a steal for the PDF. That is a steal. If you don't have the core rulebook, shame on you. This is less than $10, and you've got, I don't know how many pages, over 300, I think. No, not quite 300. So 200 and some odd pages of the rulebook. This is a rulebook, which I got with the Kickstarter, and so you get the PDF of this sucker for $10. That is, I would get it if I didn't already have it. So anyway. Then you have the various supplements, starting here with Occult Philosophy, which just came out, and that expands on magic. That's the most recent major expansion for the game that's been released. Demon Lord's Companion, that kind of is an expansion of the original core rulebook, and then you have Demon Lord's Companion 2, which expands it even further. And then you have the various supplements that kind of zero in on specific aspects of the game. So Hunger in the Void goes into more detail around the concept of having a theme for your campaign. So the themes in the campaign, or what they refer to as the Shadow of the Demon Lord itself, is that when the Shadow of the Demon Lord falls upon your campaign world, that's when things reality begins to unravel, bad things start happening in the world, and they categorize those. So you have things like famine, you have demonic incursions, you have invaders from somewhere else, you've got mutations, you've got a winter apocalypse, undead apocalypse. All those things are considered shadows of the Demon Lord. So when the shadow falls upon your world, one of those major events occurs, and it's kind of like the background of your campaign and informs what's going on in your campaign world throughout the course of your campaign, and it can actually be the reason why your campaign is happening. So your characters would either be ridden along by this wave, or they would be actually actively trying to stop and rectify the problems that the shadow is causing. That's the way I tend to run my campaigns. They are driven by the shadow of the campaign, and the characters are trying to stop or reverse the damage. Forbidden Rules is a supplement that was provided that gives some of the rules that were play tested for the game system, but were ultimately not included in the game system for various reasons. They are rules that work, but they aren't rules that necessarily add what the creator of the game, Robert Schwalb, wanted in his game. So some of the rules, for example, may work well within the framework of the system, but it adds complexity that he didn't want in the game. So maybe it takes combat longer, or maybe it adds just a little bit too much math to the game, or something along those lines. He has the Forbidden Rules also has a alternate rules for things like armor as damage reduction, which is one of my favorite types of rules, which I had kind of hoped and wanted to be included in the game, but wasn't. Then you have alternate rules, such as there's actually a class, or not a class, but a path that's provided called the Adept, and or Adept, however you want to pronounce that, which is kind of a user of magic that doesn't fall under the normal magician or priest paths. So this is kind of like an alternate caster path. And then finally, it also had rules for in between gameplay, downtime rules, which is pretty cool. You roll off tables and figure out basically what happened in between games. And then finally, it has rules for playing beyond 10th level. So the game itself caps off at level 10, but this supplement gives you rules on how to proceed past level 10 if you want to do that. Cult Philosophy actually updates those rules and kind of expands on them. So it started here, but has been most recently the rules for level gameplay past 10th level are most up to date in the Occult Philosophy. Excuse me. Okay, I'm going to pause for a moment so I can blow my nose. All right, thank you. Damn you, mold. All right, we have Terrible Beauty, which expands on some of the Fey races. It introduces the elf ancestry and hobgoblin ancestry, and I'm not sure if it does any others. Can't remember off the top of my head. Uncertain Faith expands on religion in the game, so it delves into more detail on the various religions that are practiced in the game world. Exquisite Agony is one of my favorite supplements. Actually, I gotta say, Hunger in the Void is my favorite supplement. And I really didn't do it justice when I was telling you about the supplement, because it goes beyond. Okay, so let me back up. Boop, 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 boop. Hunger in the Void, back to it. So it not only goes into the shadows of the demon lord that fall over the world, but it also expands on demons themselves. So it gives you a huge section on how to customize your demons. And then it gives you some alternate Beastmen templates. And it goes into a section where it provides you rules for super powerful demons, such as demon princes. And it actually gives you a template for demon prince, and then it gives you like 3 examples of different demon princes that you could feature in your game. One is the Destroyer of Worlds, another one is the Betrayer in Flesh, I want to say, and then the last one is something I don't remember. Anyway, and then finally, the last part of the book provides a new path, or a new ancestry called the Incarnate, which is if you're a somebody who views or has seen the show Supernatural. It's kind of like the angels in Supernatural. Angels are these disembodied creatures that have to possess a mortal form in order to exist in the world. And that's what incarnates are. They are actually the essences of the genies that created the world, and that have since created a barrier between the material universe and the void to protect their creations from the demon lord and from demons and all the nastiness that is the void. And so the genies, every once in a while, they sense that there is a threat to their creation, and so they send an incarnate to the world with the express purpose of fixing that problem. So they're kind of like an oath driven character in that they are here for a purpose, and then once that purpose is done, they are out. So they possess somebody, and then that possession only lasts as long as it's needed before that genie goes back to the barrier separating the universe from the void and merges with it once again. And then the very little last part of the Hunger in the Void is a kind of a history of the world, part one, um, that kind of details from the very beginning of time and space up to the point where the world is formed and the races are created and all that. So it gives you an overview of the creation mythology, and there's a huge spoiler in there that I'm not going to reveal here. That gives you some insight into the nature of the Demon Lord itself, which will kind of blow your mind. So it blew my mind anyway. So anyway, all right, moving on to probably one of my other favorite supplements, and that would be Exquisite Agony, which deals with hell. So when you die in Shadow of the Demon Lord, your spirit, if you're immortal, if you're amortal, not immortal, if you're amortal, your spirit goes to one of two places. If you have no corruption, your spirit goes to the underworld, which is not in the supplement. If your spirit, however, has corruption upon it, in other words, during your life, if you accumulated one or more points of corruption, then your spirit goes to hell. And hell is presided over by the being known as Diabolus. And Diabolus is basically the devil. And he presides over hell. His servants are devils, and they feed upon the corruption of the mortal souls that are brought to hell. And so whenever a mortal soul that is rife with corruption appears in hell, they're dragged into the flame pits and they're tortured. And the torture is what allows the devils to extract the corruption from the souls and feed upon them. So that is Exquisite Agony. It's an awesome supplement. I love the lore. I love the monsters they provide in there. So good shit. Freeport Companion was in that other folder, so we already covered that. Tombs of Desolation. This is another good one. This expands upon the Desolation, which is a specific area in the game world that is a desert. So you've got lots of desert goodness in there, black pyramids, undead. This is really kind of an undead expansion, if you will, although it has creatures other than undead in there as well. But it's a really interesting and good expansion for the game, and I actually plan on doing a Desolation campaign at some point, probably after the one I'm doing next, which is Tales of no, it is the Queen of Gold. Then you have what you have here next is a player's guide. So you've already got the core rule book way back here for $9, $9.50. And that has all the rules in it, all the world lore, all the GM information, all of everything. So I would say the core rule book is mostly for GMs. The player guide only provides the player specific information. So it gives you the ancestries, it gives you the paths, it gives you the equipment information, it gives you the magic information as far as spells go. And I think that's about it. I mean, it just basically gives you the information players need. So your players would benefit from having just the player's guide, and you would benefit as a GM for them having the player's guide, in that they can't cheat and look at the monster stats or look at the the other stuff that's in the core rulebook that you don't necessarily want them to know about. A Glorious Death is another one of my favorites. It's an expansion that deals with the far south of the world, and this world is predominantly featured in the southern hemisphere. The campaign is featured in the southern hemisphere of the game world. And the southern hemisphere, of course, the further south you go, the colder it gets, at least on Earth. Maybe different somewhere else, but on Earth, that's how it goes. So this deals with the southernmost lands where it's very inhospitable, but there are races that thrive there, and you are provided the ancestry of the Jotun in this campaign setting, which I think is kind of an overpowered ancestry, but they're fun. And so I allowed I allowed a Jotun to be in my first campaign. But since the Jotun was, out of his element, it was kind of a balance for the Jotun. But he was tough to do any damage to. So anyway, that's the Glorious Death. That's good stuff there. Then we have Godless, which I already talked about. Beyond the World's Edge is another one of my favorites, and it expands on the campaign world. So the core rulebook talks about the continent of Rule, for the most part, and the area surrounding it, the immediate area surrounding it, like the Pirate Islands and the Kingdom of Sails and that sort of thing. But the Beyond the World's Edge actually goes and expands the campaign world and tells you what's beyond just the small portion that is featured in the core rulebook. And it's got some pretty cool stuff in there that I'm actually going to plan to incorporate into my game at some point, but not for a while. And then Victims of the Demon Lord is for starter characters. Now, I'm not really sure why you would need this if you already have the player's guide or the core rulebook, other than the fact that it's essentially pay what you want. So you could pay 50 cents, you could pay $5, whatever it is that you feel is appropriate for Victims of the Demon Lord. If you want to just kind of get a taste of what this game is about, and you're not necessarily ready to invest in all the rest of the stuff. So that is everything that's in the core rulebook section of DriveThru RPG. And then, of course, we go into the Victims of the Demon Lord. Or did I already do this? I forget. No, I didn't. Okay, so then you have expansions on the ancestry. So you have a human ancestry expansion. You have goblins. You have Ghost in the Machine, which is an expansion for Clockworks. Born to Kill is an expansion for Orcs. Stolen Lives is an expansion for the Changeling. Uncommon Courage is the expansion for Halflings. For Golden Glory, one of my favorite ancestry expansions is for the Dwarven ancestry. And then Between Two Worlds is the expansion for the Fawn ancestry. So those are the ones that have been put in this folder, although I would say that the gnomes that was in that other folder, the lycanthropes, and the centaur would fit very well in here. There's also another one for the woad, which is in another one. The woad are another ancestry that I really haven't gone into a whole lot of reading on the woad, simply because I haven't really seen them kind of talked about in some of the supplements, so I'm not really sure how they fit really into the campaign world. So I've just kind of left the woad alone at this point. But they're there, so if you're wanting something different, you might want to check out the woad to see if that might fill a niche in your version of the campaign. Okay, so that is it for the Shadow of the Demon Lord. And then you got Max Press down here. It's on the Schwalb page, but it's not actually for the Shadow of the Demon Lord campaign or game. Max Press is taking ideas from the Shadow of the Demon Lord and converting them into Dungeons and Dragons. So this is actually a Dungeons and Dragons imprint, taking stuff from Shadow and porting it over. And so you have demonic excretions, which is, I believe it has to do with demon. Uh, Back it up. Has to do with oozes. So you have stats for various types of ooze monsters. Call to Arms takes a fourth edition D&D character class and updates it for fifth edition. The Blasphemies of Borb Walsh is taking a lot of spells from Shadow of the Demon Lord and converting them to fifth edition D&D. Defenders of the Wild takes also another character class, character class from fourth edition D&D and converts it to fifth edition. And then Forbidden Knowledge is a what is it? I forget. Yeah, it's like it adds new traditions for the wizard class. That's what it does. And of course, spells and stuff like that. Also, again, those are that is most of these are influenced by Shadow of the Demon Lord, but you have a couple that are influenced by fourth edition D&D, which Rob Schwalb worked on as well. Okay, so back it up to the Schwalb page. That pretty much covers everything having to do with Schwalb Entertainment. And I've dumped so much money into this site, it's ridiculous. But it's well worth it because there's so much stuff here that is not only interesting to read, but useful for your game. So I strongly recommend that you check it out. Again, I'm not employed by, nor do I get any kickbacks by Schwalb Entertainment. This is strictly a fan that is going over an offering that you may not be aware of or familiar with. So there you go. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. And thanks again for taking a little bit of your time to watch at least the first couple of minutes of this video. And we will catch you in the next video. So with that, give you all a hearty hail. And once again, I can't find the stop button. There we go. All right, hail.